CM Punk is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I don't think there's much in the way of discussion for the contrary. Really, his promo skills are absolutely legendary and led to many amazing, legendary feuds in whatever company he went to that'll many years down the line be spoken in the same breath as something like a Flair versus Steamboat. His matches often are excellent, and no matter what company he's in, he has great matches, great feuds, great promos, and always rises to the occasion no matter where he is put on the card. I do, however, not think that he has ever had a perfect 5-star match. And that is my personal opinion, because obviously others have different opinions. According to Dave Meltzer, he's had 2 perfect 5-star matches against John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 and against Samoa Joe at Punk vs. Joe 2. And on Cage Match, he has 13 matches that receive a 9.0 or higher rating, pushing them into the upper echelon of truly great, perfect wrestling matches. I personally, though, do not think that CM Punk has ever risen to that level and had a perfect 5-star match. I'm Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and I'm going to tell you why. So I'd like to start with 2 quick caveats. Firstly, I'm a huge fan of CM Punk. My first video ever on this channel was dedicated to CM Punk, where I went through and talked about every must-see CM Punk match. And for that video, I watched well over 150 CM Punk matches, including every single match he had in pay-per-view in WWE, every single AEW match, bar none, and every single highly rated match he had on his indie run in Ring of Honor and IWA Mid-South, which makes me feel like I am qualified to speak on this topic. And maybe qualified isn't the right word because it makes me sound a little douchey and narcissistic and full of myself. But having watched so much CM Punk, I feel like I have the ability to talk about his career as a whole and make sort of these big, enrapturing statements about CM Punk as a wrestler. I should also say what I think a 5-star match is, just so you have a little bit of context when I talk about it later in the video. So a 5-star match for me is an absolutely perfect match, meaning it's flawless in the ring and the action in between the ropes. There's absolutely no room for improvement. There's nothing in the match that I could say they could have done that better or they should have done this instead of this. It's all perfect. And it has a dynamic story that it tells that not only engages the viewing audience at home, but also those people in the arena to create noise and create an atmosphere around the match. And based on those standards, I feel comfortable in saying that CM Punk has never met those criteria to truly have a 5-star perfect match. And the way I want to break it down is to go through portions of his career. I'm going to separate it into his early work in Ring of Honor and IWA, his work in WWE, and his work in AEW. And breaking those apart and segmenting his career like that, I feel gives us an easier way to view his career as a whole and an easier way to critique some of his work and see why he's never reached that upper 5-star echelon. So first, let's start with his time on the indies. And there's 2 things that I want to primarily focus on here: his run in Ring of Honor and his feud with Chris Hero. And for that second one, I've already made a video in the past discussing why I feel CM Punk versus Chris Hero is potentially one of the most overrated rivalries in the history of wrestling. So I'm not going to rehash a lot of that information, but I feel like a lot of things I discussed in that video that plagued early CM Punk matches are also present in his Ring of Honor career. And at the time, it seemed like Punk was really intent on having amazing matches every time he wrestled, which is amazing to see as a wrestling fan, someone who's so passionate about wrestling and just wants to go out there and put on this amazing performance. It's so great to see that. But the way he chose to accomplish that, in my opinion, didn't really find the mark and didn't live up to what was actually considered great wrestling, because he chose to incorporate a lot of chain wrestling in his matches, which really were just rest holds. Like, even in his best matches against Hero, Samoa Joe, Roderick Strong, Austin Aries, James Gibson, whoever you want to talk about, they start at an unbearably slow pace, consisting primarily of like arm bars and head scissors and things like that. And he starts every match just so slow, and it's hard as a result to get reinvested in what you're watching. Like in his 5-star Meltzer match with Samoa Joe at Punk versus Joe 2, it's an hour-long match, and 45 minutes of it absolutely are 5-star amazing material. But the first 15 minutes of the match are so slow and so tedious, it's hard to get invested as a viewer into the remainder of the match as a result. And that there's another issue with Punk in there, is that a lot of times this chain wrestling exists because he is electing to have these long matches. A lot of his matches, his most famous matches at least from this time, were in the 40 minutes to an hour plus category. And going that long, it's much harder to sustain a constant frenetic pace necessary for a 5-star perfect match. And really, if he took a lot of those matches and cut off 10 to 15 minutes, primarily the rest holds at the beginning of the match, they would be easier to put into the perfect 5-star category, particularly his match with Samoa Joe. It could easily get into that 5-star territory if it wasn't bogged down by all this chain wrestling at the beginning. So really, my criticism with Punk at this time is he was trying really hard to have great matches, but the way he went about that was by incorporating too many rest holds and going for too long on the night to try to give his matches this varnish of greatness, rather than just focusing on telling an amazing, compact, dynamic story. So the criticisms I have about CM Punk when he goes to WWE are very, very different from his Ring of Honor run. Primarily because none of it is the fault of CM Punk. His match styles were a lot better and a lot more suited for a viewer like me. They were shorter, not meaning that they were short 5-minute matches, but they were 20 to 30-minute matches a lot of times in his main event slots. And they were more focused on action throughout rather than rest holds at the beginning. What really sucked the life out of a lot of CM Punk matches in this time was dumb, crappy booking. And like I said, not at all the fault of Punk then. It's entirely the fault of WWE for him not being able to have a perfect match in this time. And I want to focus on 2 matches to exercise this point a little bit. The first is his match against Daniel Bryan from Money in the Bank 2012. This match had all the potential in the world. It is 2 amazing wrestlers, the 2 of the best wrestlers in the world, and 2 of the best wrestlers of all time, in my opinion, in Punk and Danielson, going out there, main event, Money in the Bank for the WWE Championship. They had 20 or 25 minutes to do it. They truly could have had an amazing all-timer match. But instead, they are saddled with this love triangle story incorporating AJ Lee, and she's the special guest referee. And nothing against AJ Lee here, but it just didn't really work in the sense of the match. And halfway through, she gets bumped off the aprons, taken out, and a normal ref comes in, so it doesn't even really matter. It's just, they take great action and tie a noose around its neck with dumb sports entertainment booking to drag it down. And the same is true against his match with John Cena. Not his match from Money in the Bank, because I don't think that's the best match John Cena and CM Punk had. I think the Money in the Bank 2011 match is actually, when you rewatch it, pretty sloppy when it comes in the ring. There's a few noticeable botches in there, and really noticeable. Not they get their timing a little wrong. CM Punk's supposed to land on his feet off an attitude adjustment and lands flat on his butt. What I would like to focus on instead is their match the following month or a few months later at SummerSlam, which I feel from an in-ring perspective is a better match. All these this sort of unevenness that existed in their Money in the Bank match is not present in their SummerSlam match, and they have a far superior in-ring technical match as a result. And if you look at it, it starts out well. Put your 2 top guys out there, make them have a great match, put Punk over Cena for the title. Put Triple H as the special guest referee. Have Kevin Nash come out at the end and powerbomb CM Punk. I don't know about that. Have Alberto Del Rio come down and cash in on CM Punk. What are you doing? Like, are you trying to commit promotional malpractice? Because that's an insane thing to do after having one of your best matches of the year, to just completely screw up all the good faith and all the good feelings by this wave of terrible booking. They couldn't just let Punk have a great match. They always had to weigh him down with some sports entertainment schlock, some booking shenanigans to just draw all of the excitement I have as a pro wrestling fan out of his matches. So from this period, from like when he came in like 2006 to when he left in 2013, that's the main criticism I have. I could go into other stuff about how he wasn't booked realistically as a world heavyweight champion, how he was a joke in ECW, how even when he was the top champ, he was never the top guy because Rock and Cena were there. But all of those arguments sort of fall secondary or tertiary to the fact that the booking always crippled him in terms of having a perfect match. So lastly, I want to focus on AEW, and really it seemed like the perfect setup for Punk to have the best matches of his career. He's no longer focusing on having the longer, hour-long rest hold-driven matches, nor is he plagued with bad sports entertainment booking. So where was the disconnect at this point? Well, really, it's two different things at two different points in Punk's AEW run. The first being when he came back, the matches just weren't really that good. And I don't know if it was ring rust or maybe he's just a little older. So every match he had, excluding matches with MJF, were usually between like the 3 to 3.5 star territory. Just nothing really great or blow away. But that all changed when he got onto Collision. Because Collision is when he really came alive, in my opinion, started having some amazing matches. Like, he had a match with Ricky Starks on Collision that was amazing. 2 matches with Samoa Joe that were awesome. All of the trios work he did with FTR was absolutely fantastic. But by this point in his career, after Brawl Out and after all the controversy that surrounded CM Punk, there was sort of like this black cloud that hung over him in all of his matches, where whether it was because the crowd was not really behind him in the way they were before, or just my own personal stigmas getting in the way of him, knowing that he is sort of a jerk backstage and he has all this drama that follows him around, it pulled me out of the matches a little bit. And maybe that's an indictment of me, but I feel like more so that is an indictment of Punk, that he let personal behind the stage business get in the way of what we were seeing on screen. And no matter who you are, no matter what company you're in, that is always a bad thing. So overall, whether it be his fault for his in-ring status or because of some of his backstage drama or the fault of others for poorly booking him, I feel that I cannot claim to have ever seen a 5-star CM Punk match. And I've seen a lot of 4.5 or 4 3/4 matches, but none of them were ever really able to push past these tropes which hold them down and get them into that 5-star range. But that is just my personal opinion, and I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think that CM Punk has ever had a 5-star match? Are the Cena matches and the Samoa Joe matches good enough to push past the critiques I've given them in this video to get into the 5-star range? I'm interested to know what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comments. But thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, as I'll be releasing more sort of short video essays like this, or consider leaving a like if you really thought it deserved it. I have been Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.